Welcome to the Simply Be Found Huddle. You've got Dean and you've got Rob, and we have guest Jim today. Jim, welcome and thank you for joining us. Can you tell everybody kind of about you and kind of how you help small businesses or how your stuff relates to the small business world?
Well, I feel like I tripped over something that's incredibly important, not just to the small business world, but to all of us in general. And essentially, what I'm coming at, I came out of 20 years of acting, and in the process, I tripped over the idea that if you think about the human brain is the most powerful supercomputer we know of, right? As a
Sure.
human species. Well, what's the operating system? What's the Windows 11? What's the iOS? What's the system that we use, like Linux, Red Hat, to allow us to interface that supercomputer? What I'm saying is that about 100 years ago, these acting masters accidentally created one. Now, if you consider how like glass makers work with glass, metal workers work with metal, musicians with instruments and composition, what do actors work with? What's the marble we chisel? The answer is the human mind and emotions. That's the reality of it. We've advanced so much in the last 2,500 years of Western acting. Like the first 2,100 years, that's where people think we still are. We're pretend, representation, masking. The 300 years that followed, like the Victorian era, Shakespearean era, it kind of moved into realism and naturalism. But over the last 100 years, from 1900 onward, with this cat named Konstantin Stanislavski, he made it philosophical. It's about being and becoming someone else mentally and emotionally. So what I'm saying is, if these guys created the hammers, tools, and chisels to shape the human mind and emotions, why aren't we giving it to everyone else? If you want to build better employees, build them from the inside out. It's not just about, because I've gotten so many jobs where I've had these quote unquote universities at this franchise that teaches you how to do the things. Well, why aren't we teaching them how to be better employees? Like why or what they the why about what they're doing? Because there's so many jobs where I had where I'm doing the best I can, rocking out, but I'm not treated any differently than someone who doesn't care. So it's like, where's the incentive there? It kind of falls back to that movie Office Space. What's the incentive? Well, it's not just about what's the incentive. These are people who genuinely don't know who is teaching them. So what I'm saying, essentially, if we look at the fact that when we gave the world mental or written and numerical literacy through reading and writing and mathematics, changed the world. So why wouldn't it change the world if we gave them mental and emotional literacy, taught them how to think, how to be a more complete human being? So now you're making your workforce more robust. Instead of funneling through people and finding out which one is good, take the ones you have and train them better. It's like the Marine Corps concept. You don't throw out Marines because they're not good. You train them until they're Marines. So that's what I'm saying. Let's bring a higher level of training to our employees by giving them something they never had before. And that's mental and emotional literacy.
That's a great concept. The question I had for you then, Jim, is what's the vehicle to try to help employees in your opinion? I mean,
Absolutely.
because it takes time. I mean, you have to have time. You also have to have employees that want to be vested in the process as well. I mean, you have to have managers that are wanting to help, and you have to have people that are invested in the process. So how would you go about doing that for a business? And I'm assuming it'd be for any size business, one employee up to hundreds of employees. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I appreciate your question. And the thing about this is, like you said, kind of what incentivizes the employee to do it. This isn't just about being better at your job. Like I said, it's about being a better human being. So it affects everything you do. One of the first techniques I want to share is called the Stannisloski System. Now, this is a system as an actor, it's designed to ground my character in the moment. Well, think about it. In real life, we talk about it all the time. You don't lie. It degrades your character. Work hard, build work ethic, build your character. I'm saying these 7 questions aren't just acting questions. These are life questions that will help you build your character. Number 1. Oh, one last thing before I start off.
So just real quick, this acting technique, is this what we call method acting? Is that what?
Negative. This predates it.
Okay.
The Stannisloski system originated in Russia in the 1900s. Method acting came around in 1933 in New York via the group theater, like Lee Strasberg. Method acting had a problem in the beginning. Now, when Konstantin Stanislavski came along in 1900, he wrote 3 prominent books. Now, in 1933, when the group theater was forming, there was only one available to them, his first book. So they had an issue with emotional recall. So essentially, like if you experienced a trauma, Strasberg would say, well, go back to that trauma and pull it out for the stage. And that's psychologically bad. You don't want to do that. Stella Adler, who was a member of the theater, recognized that. So she went to Paris, where Stanislavski was at the time, to train with him. And together they came up with the idea. It's like, yeah, don't pull from reality, pull from the imaginative. Because the mentality is like, you can never have the life experience in life that you can in the imaginative. You can go more places and it's safer. You can create an imaginative trauma, go in there where it's not destructive to you as a human being or individual.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification.
So it goes into the principles of how powerful the human brain is.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's the power of thought that comes into that. So there's a lot of things that have been used. I mean, the military probably has used it more than anybody for being able to develop anybody who's inside of their area, no matter if they're active duty, if they're contractors, or wherever they might be inside of that area. But they hit onto that. So it's that thought process. Waking up every morning, here's all the things you're going to go over. You could go as far as, as simple as saying, hey, I'm good. I'm going to do this, and go over your goals and do it as I'm going to do those, because the power of thought ends up being more there. So I think that's what you're trying to go at for that whole piece. Now,
yes.
the human brain is super, super powerful when it comes to things. There's a study out there, and I forget who did it and who talked about it, but there was a kid that got hit in a high school football game, I think it was, and he had a concussion. He ended up being out for 30 seconds. Well, in that 30 seconds, his brain took him to a spot where he thought this light was hanging upside down. He ended up seeing his kids, his wife, had full conversations, and this whole day went on. This light kept moving, and he couldn't figure out what was going on with that light. Well, he went to bed with his wife, tucked his kids in to go to sleep, the whole 9 yards. And he's laying in bed with her. She goes to sleep. He's still thinking about this light. So he goes down to check on the light to see if it's moved, because it was hanging upside down. It was to the side. And all of a sudden, he had people standing around him, looking at him. And he couldn't figure out why. And then he was being taken off. And he was like, where's my family? Where's my family? And all the people were like, yeah, he kept saying this over and over. Well, inside of the 30 seconds, he was out and gone. His brain took him into this other world, and it was very much like reality to him. And that goes to show how powerful it was all dream, it was all of that, but that's the power of the brain inside of there. Jim, is that kind of where you're going at with that?
Absolutely. Well, that's a higher level than I'm starting at a lower level, but absolutely, okay. That's the direction you're going to, because it's tapping into the human potential. This right here, what I'm talking about, going back to where you started with the military, is very much akin to situational awareness. And I think you'll see that once I start rattling it off. It's kind of like this. If you've got a submarine and it's underwater, it can't see nothing, right? How does it know what's around it? It sends out a ping. And that sonar that sends out that ping bounces off of submarines, whales, the ground, surface vessels, and it gives it the information it needs. The Stannisloski system is like a ping for the moment. It allows you to know what's going on in the moment, so you can have the answers to questions that will allow you to make better choices. The 7 questions are this. Number 1, who am I? This is the moment in relation to you. Number 2, where am I? This is the moment in relation to the environment. Number 3, when is it? This is the moment in relation to time. Number 4, what do I want? This is the moment in relation to purpose. Number 5, why do I want it? This is the moment in relation to desire. Number 6, how do I get it? This is the moment in relation to action. And number 7, what's in my way? This is the moment in relation to obstacles. Like I said, this works like magic to get an actor grounded in the moment. But these are life questions that people fail to ask. It blows my mind how many times I ask, well, what do you want? Like, I don't know. I never thought about it. Bro, why do you deserve it? If you don't think that little into your life, how do you expect to move forward? And that's what this is about. It gives you the situational awareness. So when you walk into the moment, whatever the moment is, whatever the circumstances are, you're going to be in a better position to move forward and make choices than someone who doesn't ask these questions at all. They're just reacting to everything. This is about being proactive. And like I said, it's taking these tools and techniques and using them in a different way. I mean, honestly, in the same way, in a different arena, because it's kind of like this. All right. let's say I got a toy Tonka truck in my hand, right? And I got a screwdriver and I'm taking off a little panel on it. My buddy walks up to me and he's like, hey, man, I can't get this panel off my Ford F-150. And I look at it and I see it screwed in. It's like, here, take the screwdriver. And he's like, bro, why do I want that? That's what we use for toys. It's like, it doesn't matter. It's a tool. We need to take the idea that this is just for acting. This is just for the stage. No, this is how we shape human minds and emotions. This is how we shape the human spirit. And it's just one of those things now. If we give this to human beings, it's going to open up all these soft skills in them. Like, more than that, once we gain emotional regulation, it's going to allow us to have emotions as a sixth sense, or a new sense for people who have one, because it's about detecting different things. The eyes detect light and objects. The ears detect sounds. The nose detects chemicals. Well, empaths detect emotional energy, because that's what emotions are. They're flavored energy. So basically, when you get into an environment, you can taste the environment via the energy. It's like how like a cop has that gut feeling, you know. It's been years of being on the force, seeing things, that now he can read that emotional energy of danger. So it's what I'm saying is like and he learned that skill. Some people are born with it. I'm saying that everything in life is a learned skill. We just have to take the tools and techniques to learn how to learn those skills. And that's what I'm trying to present here. And like I said, that's just one technique of many. In my book, I go over, because Stannisloski also offers the magic if, which is just a thought experiment. Like it's, if I walk into a room with an interview, that's another thing too, how to use these things. It's like, how many people walk into an interview for the first time when they see the interviewer? Me, I'm rehearsing that like 100 different ways before I ever step into the room. I'm going to ask all these questions to find out about my competition, about, you know, what the pay is, what the company's about. I'm going to do my work to put myself in the best position. But we don't teach that to people, because we never like sit down growing up and say, hey, little Johnny, this is how your emotions work. Or, hey, little Susie, this is how your mind works. We don't teach that to kids because we haven't really thought about it, because we haven't had the system. I mean, we had, but it's like, who looks to actors for world changing things? You know, this has been knowledge that's been sitting there for 100 years, but nobody cares because it's been sitting with the theater kids. So what I'm saying is, we need to take it, copy it, take it out, and not take it out of it, leave it in acting, but make a copy of it and put it into education and start teaching our little ones. Because consider this, we're teaching actors how to feel real emotions in imaginary circumstances, but we don't have a mind and emotions for the stage and one in real life. So what I'm saying is, if we can teach human beings how to use real emotions in imaginary circumstances, why aren't we teaching this in elementary school before kids hit adolescence and they get that emotional outburst? Why aren't we giving them the tools they need before they go through this change? And it's just in life, we teach multiple ways to listen. You know, we teach empathy, emotional regulation, critical thinking, theory of mind. These are all things that will allow a human being to grow and be more robust, to be more complete. It's just, it's not sitting in the right place, and it doesn't have the right advocacy. So I'm just trying to get out here and do what I can. And I know, like I said, man, I'm not the hero this idea needs. I'm the hobo it has. I tripped over it. I found some magic. It's like, I didn't steal fire from the gods. I tripped over it. So I don't know who stole it, but they just left it in the ground. And now I'm just trying to get it out there, because it's like, this is valuable information.
Right. So I hear what you're saying. I understand. Unfortunately, we can't, you know, for business people that are in business right now, the things that weren't taught to our youth. If you know, I don't know what that looks like. I'm not a professional in that area. So how do we bring it forward to the young adults that are in the workplace now, up to my age? I mean, they've been out there for a little bit. I mean, we all have buffers, we all have filters, and unfortunately, it gets really hard to train people in a classroom situation because everybody's scared to put their emotions on their sleeve, if you will. So how would you recommend to bring this out in employees for a business owner to make them better? What's your thought?
I would think, and this is kind of like how companies have retreats, mini retreats, you know, and it doesn't have to be all the employees. It can be like, who can you get at a time, and have it rotating in and out. So that way, and I think one of the simplest ways you can do it is create your own little mini improv troupe in your company, of all just company, or just your employees, because this is one thing that's going to build them together as a team, because that's one thing you want, is to foster teamwork. And that's what these games and activities do. And two, in the process, you can teach them these tools and techniques. We learn them together. You can just get acting books. I mean, I wrote a book on it, and I can explain it out to you, but it's there's no bar for entry. I mean, kids learn this stuff, so you don't have to be intimidated by it. So you just buy, and the whole idea is you're just playing with each other. You're playing games, and through those games, it's like the Karate Kid movies where Daniel's waxing cars and painting fences and not realizing all the time. You're learning techniques. So you're teaching your employee. You're playing these games with your employees, while on the flip side, you're teaching them in techniques that are going to make them more valuable human beings. Thus, when they grow as a human being, understand their whys and what they can offer, they have more to bring to the table to you than just an hourly employee. It's about investing in them in a way that's not going to cost money, because it doesn't. This is information that's free. It's out there. This is not something that you have to spend tens of thousands of dollars. No, man, just bring them together. You know, we always have the joke where, companies bring the pizza party together, but there's no substance to the pizza party. This is something you can bring substance to the pizza party. So now it's not just about, here, have a slice of pizza and be a part of the family. No, now you're gaining skills that will not only benefit you in work, but benefit you in life. And again, they're just playing games, so they're not going to be hesitant to it. And as they grow better, as they gain better aptitude, they're going to want to teach the younger ones. So now it's going to be self-sustaining, because as the employees grow in this aptitude of it, they're going to want to teach the younger guys and just keep it going, because that's how it works. I mean, it's the same mentality in the military. When you learn skills and grow in rank, you want to teach the younger guys and foster them in. So that's what you're doing. You're breeding a better employee by making them more than they were before.
How much time? So inside of business, you have restrictions on time, and you have only so much money to be able to put at it. You cover the money side. How much time do you think it takes for a business owner to invest this into their employees?
Oh, I mean, that's a tough one, but it's tough because how much time do you have? But the simple answer is, it's like anything. It's like if you're going to the gym, how much time do you going to put into your body? And it's the same principle, because you're growing your emotions. It's the same way you grow them in the gym. You exercise them. You have to do it again and again. But again, with this, if you have like a simple program at work, if you build the habit, they take it at home. And now it's not a time issue anymore, because if they understand their why, this is making me better, they're going to do it off the clock. They're going to teach their kids this. They're going to teach their spouse this. And they're going to grow in that way. And now they have a second pocket. Not only is it at work, but it's also going to be at home. Because like I said, this is like, if we live in a world now, we understand how important it is to read and write. Nobody wants to be illiterate, because if somebody hands you a contract, what are you going to do? Once people appreciate the magnitude that this is mental and emotional literacy and what it costs you by not having it. Because if you think about this, the ruling class, the 1%, politicians, think tanks, the people on top who have all the money, they spend billions and billions of dollars to try to understand how we think, how we behave, to influence how we purchase things and how we vote. That's because we don't have mental and emotional literacy. It's the same thing of not being able to read a contract if you're illiterate. We don't understand those things are happening. They're over our heads. Once we gain those things and all these red flags start popping up, people are going to want this literacy, and they're going to start doing it on their own. So you're just a catalyst, really. So once you light that spark up, it's going to grow in their life, because they're going to recognize the importance. And again, it's not difficult to do. So once they realize how easy it is, once they start teaching their little ones, it's just going to pop off. And I figure once this is really seen for what it is, it's just going to ignite across the country, because again, it's a new form of literacy. It's going to let us see what we haven't been able to see before. Because once you gain mental and emotional literacy, you'll start seeing all the people who are manipulating you in your life. And we don't realize it, but it's like in marketing and sales, maybe even personal relationships. And once they get that, like I said, it'll just kick off. And now, once they have this literacy and they're growing as individuals, they're going to be putting more output. Because like when I have a job, I work my ass off, but I don't work my ass off for my employer. I do it because I'm building a better me, because I understand that. So it's a byproduct that they're getting a better employee. Like I said, there's no incentive for me, because I've had 60 jobs in my life. I'm a job hopper. And no job has ever treated me any better for the immense, because I have a Marines mentality. I freaking work my butt off. Like the current job I have right now, I'm one of the only employees that has all their tasks done by the end of the shift. All the other employees turn the shift over as a mess. I don't do it for the employer. I do it because I'm trying to. You fight how you train. And that's the mentality I'm saying. Once you gain these literacies, you're going to realize you fight how you train. So you're going to train harder and be better. And that's going to help you as employers, because you're not going to have those employees who can't think. This is about a new way of thinking. And two, it's going to get them to think faster, because that's a problem we have now. People are thinking too slow. And I mean that by this. It's like when you're, it's a human phenomenon, the way the mind works. Like the first time you drove a car, it's kind of tricky, a little messy. You didn't know what's going on. But after some time down the road, most all of us had that experience that we drove somewhere, but we don't remember how we got there. We just showed up. That's because that's how the mind works. It starts taking processes, chunking together, making it easier, using less energy to think. Well, that's how it works with tasks, by making tasks faster. What I'm saying is turning that mental phenomenon on the way you think via the Stannisloski system. Because for people right now, it's like, okay, who am I? All right, okay, where am I? What do I want? What is the for me? It's just ping, it's gone. Because I've been doing it since I was a kid. It's my lifestyle. So once we raise that generation, it's just going to be instantaneous. You're walking the room.
So one of the things, Jim, that I'm a little older, and I was in a conference in the around 85, 86, somewhere in there. And I was sitting in the thing, they were talking about the workforce and what's going to happen, when they called it pretty spot on. We're having a whole shift in society. They said in 40 years, and of course we're about there now, that you'll be lucky to have people show up on time, want to do work. The interview process, people aren't getting involved. We have a society, a problem in society, or do we have a problem in, or everybody's out there and we're too autonomous? I don't know. It gets to be really a very complex ecosystem, if you will, because, what they were saying is happening is I was seeing it. I've had interviews where I've had 3 people scheduled, and they don't show up. They don't even call to say they couldn't make it. They were delayed. So it's really hard to, we've got something going on, and I don't really know how to fix it. I know you can start at the beginning, but that could be a whole generation before we get to doing things like what you're talking about. And you're always going to have these other people out there, the experts, they're going to fight with you. So how do you kind of overcome that in your thought process?
Well, I do agree with what you're saying. And I would say it probably will take a generation, because this is a generational problem. We've done this to ourselves. We've essentially, through our education system, have been trying to create the same individual. We go through the same school system. We learn the same things. We're not, like, if we really cared about education, we would say, okay, those 30 kids, those are all audio learners. Put them with the audio teacher. Those 30 kids, they're all practical learners. Put them with the practical teacher. We discover how they learn first. How do they ingest knowledge? Because we live in a world where we punish people for learning the wrong way. Like I need to move around when I learn. I was a terrible student. I'm a great learner. I just didn't learn via the system. Well, we've spent decades upon decades, generations, trying to create the same person. But now we get to the point where once they get out of high school and get into the workforce, we have a problem. Okay, now we got to think out of the box. How are they going to think out of the box when you spent their entire lives teaching them to think in the box? The problem is we're too focused on control. So we put them in this place to where they have no real understanding outside of the world they lived in. But now when they get out in the real world, they have to deal with real world problems. What I'm saying is this mental and emotional literacy will countermand all of that, just like it'll countermand all the stuff that billionaires are doing and the 1% with all this influence, because we will see it coming. We'll be able to think our way out. And that's what we need. We need thinkers. We don't need people who are just going to be pegs and screws, nuts and bolts. We need actual tools that can get out there and change things. And like I said, unfortunately, it may take generation, because
it probably will.
Yeah, we spent.
It probably definitely will. And I know Dean right now is thinking about his kindergarten teacher. So I mean, so Dean, I know you're itching to say that. So before I say my other piece and my response to that, Dean, go ahead and say it.
I keep getting told that happened to me 60 years ago. Get over it. This I was put back inside the box.
It's rough, man. It's rough. I hated the box.
I've never been in the box, but that's why I am who I am today. But I mean, if you look at how we put everybody through, we put emotions into the school system, and emotions are a big piece. And I agree with you on we don't look at how somebody learns, because everybody learns differently and everybody has a different way of getting there. Math is probably one of the biggest spots. As long as you come up with the answer, I don't really give a shit of how you came up with the answer. You should be able to come up with the answer as long as you can show how you did it. And I'm not saying use a calculator or any of that, but there's been multiple ways to do it. I mean, I flunked math classes because I did it my own way, and that's how I understood it. But I had the right answer.
What frustrates me
I
about
just,
math?
I just didn't do it the way the teacher taught it, because
Yeah.
that's where it is. I've got a next door neighbor that's a teacher, and he teaches math in multiple different ways, and he divides his class up that way. He teaches 8th grade math. So I mean, there's that whole piece to it, and it all depends on what that structure is. When it comes to what happens to the workforce once these employees get to that workforce, so they went through the school system, they did all that, and now they got tossed to the workforce. You might have somebody who went through the military before going to the workforce. They might have some drama that comes in with that. There might be, you never know what the life has thrown them that's going to put them into that workforce. That's going to give them their work ethic. I think we've lost a lot of work ethic because we worry about the emotion side inside of, child development more than we ever have. And I think it was, and Dean, I'm going to pick on your age real quick. Was it Dave Harvey that came up with the whole entire thing about if I was the devil?
Oh, you mean the devil made me do it? That one?
No. I'm thinking
I'm not
speaker.
familiar.
There was somebody who came over it, and they were talking. If I was the devil, I would do this. And one of those pieces inside of there,
I don't remember that one.
if I remember correctly, one of those pieces we're going to put emotion before development or something like that inside of that whole entire speech. I think that was from like 1960s. When Dave Harvey did that. And don't quote me on that, because I might have that all backwards. Now I'm gonna have to look that up. I haven't thought about that in years. But it's one of those things to where now you get these students that are now out into the workforce. So Jim, you're a job hopper. You said that inside of this conversation. My issue as an employer is it takes time for me to be able to give you the resources and to be able to build somebody up. I could take somebody with no skills and I could build them up to this amazing, version of myself, and to where they have all these skills sets that are inside of there. But that takes time. And every time I've ever done that, they end up leaving and going somewhere else. And then I get to start from ground zero all over again. And that just keeps repeating itself. And part of that problem isn't just that they got you have a double-edged sword on this. So sometimes they get those skill sets. Now they get offered a better paying job over here. Great. I'm proud of you. Good job, all that. But it still sucks for the business owner because of how much resources you put into it. The other piece is you try to be able to put that much time into it, and they don't want to accept that time that you're putting in, and they're not willing to put that effort into that piece. And now they really didn't want that. It would be no different than having a kid that's going to be taking over your business and being that, second generation or third generation. They have no desire to be inside of there, because it takes the fire behind it. So like when we look at Marines, and tell me if I'm wrong on this from your point of view on the Marine Corps or anything of any of the government branches for military, you join for a purpose, but if you were forced to join, you're not going to be the same soldier as the person who joined because they had that fire inside of them. Does that make sense?
I mostly agree, but again, it's like everything. Everything has their exceptions. And I think what we're dealing with here is the understanding of how the human individual works. It's kind of like you were saying earlier. It's like you're trying to build them to the best version of you. You're wasting energy in that respects because you're building in that respects. What I'm saying is give them tools and let them build themselves into the best version of themselves, and let that align it with your company, because now it's offloading your effort. You're giving them the tools and techniques and allowing them to self-select. Are you going to take these tools and techniques that I give you and build the best version of yourself, or are you going to waste them? And that allows you, one, to see who's worth putting your money into, who's not. And then two, it takes the work off of you, because why are you spending this energy building them when they can do it on themselves? If you're giving them all the tools and techniques, let them go to the gym. You don't need to be spotting them. You know, you have other responsibilities. If you have 2 employees, let them spot each other. You know, that's how you build, how you allow them to foster a teamwork. So if you're giving them what they need, you can step back. And that's the same way as the military. You give your troops what they need, step back and see who the leaders are, who are the ones who are going to step up. And that way, again, it takes so much off you instead of going to every individual trooper and building every single one up and having them leave, because they're going to leave. That's the nature of the beast. So if you know that's going to happen and you know the stress is putting on you from having to build them up, give them the tools, let them do it to themselves. And then that way, again, if they're good employees, find out who they hang out with, because that'll help you build other hustlers, because hustlers generally stick together. High energy people stick with high energy people. Low energy people stick with low energy people. So give them the tools and find out which one they are.
Gotcha. So how much of what you're thinking, what you're talking about, is the nature versus nurture piece as you're growing up? I mean, we may have been growing, Rob and I may have grown up identically with the way our parents were, what we talked about, but we have life experiences that really influence us. And then we get into the whole psychological game, and I'm not even close to trained to talk about that stuff. But I think I read in your profile, are you first generation or second generation American?
First generation American. Both my parents.
So your life experiences for you are going to be different than somebody else that may be the same ethnicity as you, that have been here longer, or I don't know what, or your experiences, where you come from, because my family came from Russia during the Bolshevik Revolution, so I'm only a second generation American myself. But that happened over 100 years ago now for my family. But the work experiences and what we were taught, and expectations of you're going to be the best person, does that change? I mean, we get into the whole thing. It all changes based on our life experiences a little bit. And I agree with you that you get into those cliques, if you will, that like people kind of attract other like people. And that, Rob and I are both very high energy. We're both very much perfectionists. We drive everybody insane, but that's kind of where I'm going with that, because what works for one doesn't work for everybody. And I get you to give them the tools necessary. I just like to have your opinion on that a little bit, on that process in your head.
Absolutely. I have a unique aspect of it. Like, I don't think human beings have nature. I think we are nature. We're all nurtured. We're taught to be the way we are. It's kind of like a baby can learn any language, but it's taught the language that it's learned. Like, I was watching this one video where a parent was trying to figure out the sound that a baby was making until it realized it was a dog bark. It was their dog that was rough. It was just ruff, ruff, like that. And it was mimicking it. And it's just one of those things where it's like, it's what we're capable of doing, because the human vehicle is so crazy versatile. So it's one of those aspects there where once we start growing out, that it just allows us to go in any different way. For me personally, I have a very, very unique aspect, because even though I'm first generation American, I took a crazy ride. This goes all the way back to when I was 4 years old. When I was 4 years old, my parents took me to a midnight mass. And for whatever reason, the concept of eternity freaked me out. I realized that there's no end. There could be no middle. If there's no middle, it's a perpetual beginning. So 10,000 eons from now, I'm still going to exist. And even though I didn't understand the scope of time, I understood that what happens once I do everything many times over with the rest of eternity. So boredom freaked me out. So I regressed back inside my mind and instinctively started treating it like a supercomputer. And I started creating programs. My first two were my suits and bubbles. My suits were essentially different versions of me. What I would do is anytime I met another human being, I would actively listen. I would draw everything I could in and recreate them as me, as a version of me inside myself. My bubbles were like the holodeck in the Star Trek universe. They could be anytime, any place, anywhere. What I didn't realize at that young age, what I essentially did was give myself a proving grounds. So anytime I was about to walk into a situation, I could pull a version of me out, put it in a bubble, and go through that scenario multiple times before I made the decision. Like, if I wanted a cookie from mom, I could freaking ask it 15 different ways in my head before I actually asked for that cookie or tried to get that cookie. And that's how I used it. And then I just kind of progressed on that way. And like I said, everybody I met, I just kind of grew. So my perception, my perspective of the world just kept on growing. But it was difficult for me because I was asking questions as a toddler that adults didn't want to answer because they didn't have the answers to. And it was just one of those things where I kept on going. I was in Jersey at the time, but I was about 10 years old, moved down to Alabama because my family moved us there. And it was like a cultural shock because Jersey was so quick. Alabama was just laid back, not negative.
I was gonna say, talk about a culture shock.
Yeah. It was like a young one, my whole life just got uprooted. And it was just like, because I mean, back in the 1980s, it was just trees and cows, it was a long time ago. But it's like my first taste for acting was, I guess, Theater 1 when I was a freshman in high school. I did that for about 6 weeks, got kicked out, put in ROTC. I think that kind of helped me get in the Marine Corps. I did that for a few years. When I got to the Marine Corps, that's what got me back into acting. I was working at a Lone Star Steakhouse, and we were rolling silverware at the end of our shift, and there was 2 girls over there in another booth rolling silverware, and one was going on about her voice lessons. I was a young, dumb honorary Marine. I just got out. And I was like, come on, you're talking about voice lessons being hard? I'll talk to you about being hard. And I was a freaking Marine. And then she just popped up and she's like, I bet you couldn't do 3 weeks, soldier boy. And I was taken back. So I was like, all right, I can do this. I saw it as a challenge. So I went, found a voice coach, went to take 6 weeks. But it's like after the first week, I forgot about the challenge because it was so unique how he handled me, how he made me sound. And then that got me into a chorus and got me into a play. In the first 2 years, I got like 30 credits. Then I moved to New York. I got some more credits up there. I wrote, produced, and performed my own play. That got me into my first audition for my principal role in a SAG film. But that film was important because that's where it kind of clicked for me. There was a scene I was doing with Lyndon Ashby. I don't know if you guys ever saw the 1990s Mortal Kombat film. The guy who played Johnny Cage, his name was Lyndon
Not
Ashby.
in a long time. It would have been in the 1990s when I was a kid, so I don't remember.
I was stoked because
I've got a great memory, but I can't. It's not that good.
Yeah, but I was stoked because I was working opposite that guy. But the thing was, I was off camera. He was on camera. But when they yelled cut, he reached over and shook my hand like I pulled a kid out of a fire. And I didn't understand why. And it took me several weeks, even after we wrapped, before I realized. But what had happened was, in moments like that, the actor on camera isn't getting enough work from the character off camera. The character off camera is just kind of yeah in their lines. If you're giving the other actor on camera, you're making his performance better because you're giving him more material. Even though I wasn't in character because of my lifestyle, I was present in the moment and I was giving to him as an actor. That's why he shook my hand, because I made his scene better, even though I was off camera. But it was like when I realized that, I was like a Highlander, the quickening moment. I realized that all these tools and techniques are teachable. And because I've been unpacking this for a while. But it was after that I started teaching it to the school system, and it was good and bad. It was good because I was opening kids up. Teachers were seeing it. Students were seeing it. People were impressed by it. I taught 4 different classes, like 15 hours a week for a full school year. The next school year, the superintendent called me up. He praised me on the class. We want to give you 2 more schools, but he's like, we still can't pay you. And I'm like, I gave you a whole year free. I can't do another year free, So I had to leave that program. That's when I wrote my book, All Your Best Selves. But it wasn't until I started doing podcasts because I just started February 6th. So I'm just over 2 months into podcasting, and I've done like 35 already. But it was like maybe in the first 3 to 5 that I realized this is mental and emotional literacy, because I didn't have anybody to talk to. Once I started talking to someone about it, it opened it up a lot more. And I'm still unpacking it even right now.
Well, I think there's a lot to unpack. So if you were to come in and you were to say you're a business coach and you're coming in, you're going to coach a business on the complete concept, and this is what it's going to look like for you to be able to go through and implement this strategy. What would that look like?
Basically, I think the simplest thing is kind of what I put down in the back of my book. I didn't realize it, but I took 3 different acting masters. I took Konstantin Stannisloski, his 7 questions plus the magic if. I took Sanford Meisner, because Sanford Meisner teaches behavior. Again, it's the difference between inside out acting versus outside in acting. Stannisloski is inside out, where you work from the inside out. Stannisloski is outside in. So basically, I would study your behavior to see the external stimuli and build in. But again, reading behavior, crazy important in life. And the third is Uta Hagen, and it's kind of character building. And she has 10 exercises. And then after that is improv. I don't have a lot of improv in the book because I wish I put more, but it was circumstances. But basically, I have all of those lined out, explaining how actors use them side by side with how you would use them in life. And you'll see there's not much difference. Now, if I was going to put them in a course, it would depend on how much time. If I had enough time, I would show the acting aspect just to give them, because the importance of that for me is, excuse me, there's more than these exercises. I put them side by side. That way you can see how they look. So if you get another exercise that isn't in the book, you'll have an understanding of how to use it in life.
So I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit, Jim. Have you worked with a business yet, or do you have any case studies that you talk about improvement in productivity and just better behavior, better workforce? Have you done anything with? I mean, you've done. It sounds like you've worked with schools and trying to get that built up there. Have you worked in the business world yet? Much as far
Personally,
as that kind of coaching?
Me personally, no, but there's a lot of evidence to support this in different arenas. But that it's in the second part of my book. This goes back to the 1950s with Dr. Joseph Levy Moreno. Psychotherapy, which was once psychodrama, what he created was essentially literally taking acting techniques and putting in group therapy. And what he said was what changed is, like, when you have talk therapy, you don't get all the same responses as you do when you get your body involved. So his whole aspect was getting your body involved to see through another person. There's also sense theater that works with autistic kids. Now, essentially what sense theater does is kind of like reverse engineer a situation. So it pulls back the curtain. So autistic kids can't read social cues. So what they're doing is they're using acting tools and techniques to teach them how the circumstances work. So they don't have to guess on the social cues. They know how the circumstances work. There's also trauma drama, where it takes teams who have traumatic incidents, and instead of going through those traumatic incidents, it takes them through imaginary, kind of like Stella Adler, imaginary traumatic instances, teaches them the tools and techniques to deal with trauma. So now they have the tools and techniques. Now they can take those tools and techniques to work on their own trauma. There's UC Irvine had a class that was teaching people how to use memory and acting together, because memory goes back 2,500 years as well, with the Roman Room, memory palace and whatnot. And there's also, I forgot, the St. Elmhurst College, I think. Dr. Noyce, it's a married couple. They're dramatic professors, but again, they're teaching how dramatic effects are helping the elderly with autism kind of pull their memory back in a sense. It's kind of like when you see an elderly man who played the piano a long time ago who has dementia, but you put a piano in front of him, start playing the notes, and it'll just rap away like it's magic. It's that recall that we have, and it's underlying there. It's just we don't fully understand it. So all of these programs have now science and data that proves it. But again, we just haven't pushed it to the next level. I'm just saying, why are we just helping the broken when this helps everyone? So once we put it in the business world, granted, there's no hard evidence yet, but because we haven't tried, nobody's failed yet. But all the other arenas, we've seen success. So I'm just saying, let's put it in there and see what happens.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like you're hitting on a lot of the stuff. I mean, if we're going to put it in the military aspect, it would be the interrogation piece. You're watching for body language. You're watching for cues. You're watching for, eye shifts. You're watching for all the stuff that's there. Then you're looking for speaking patterns and for, tone and all that different stuff that comes in there. So when you're investigating, you're going through and you're breaking all that completely down. So what you're doing is you're taking what you're doing right now is you're teaching them how to be able to control those spots, being able to take it, and depends on who you talk to inside of the psych world. You're putting it in Pandora's box. You're boxing things up and putting it in, and you're going to go to the box that you need for being able to get into that emotion. No different than if you were in the military, you're being deployed out to go hit some target in this area. You're going to pull a different box out of there, and they teach us really well inside of the military, which is probably why you love it so much in there, if I was to guess, because you have to pull that box out because you have to now be that person. It's no different than in acting and all of that. Now you have inside of the world of acting, you have multiple different people that they can have multiple shoots going on, and they can pull from their arsenal for what boxes they have for the character they're going to play. And then you also have the actor who goes full 100% in. I mean, this would be like Captain Jack Sparrow for, he doesn't leave character, doesn't shower, doesn't do any of that. He lives just like if he was there. I mean, so you have that piece inside of there. So it sounds like you're kind of breaking those pieces down, combining them together, and teaching how to be able to compartmentalize inside of there and to where you can do it, which allows you to be able to control your emotions inside of there, and also be able to go to a toolbox to be able to say, this is what I'm going to use in this scenario. Am I understanding that right?
Absolutely. I think the key words you said in there was training. The military gives you the training. Civilians don't have that training. It's like,
No.
There was an old saying that I used to think was like a modern military saying. I had no idea it went back 2,500 years to the Greek lyrical poet named Archeliakos. But it's, we don't rise to the level of our expectations. We fall back to our training. And that's the key thing. We need to train civilians better, because I heard it all the time. It's like when I work at jobs and I'm busting my hump and we're saying to military, it's like, no, we're not fighting and dying, but we can have that same level of excellence in our day-to-day work. And that's all I try to do is up the game.
Come on, Jim. You shouldn't be, doing it like boot camp and getting a bare nut up the ass.
Yeah, right.
Why not?
Like I said,
go get sewed up. Come back out here and do it again.
In boot camp, it sucked because I was doing it for someone else. Now it's easier because I'm doing it for me. And that's what I'm saying is the difference. That's the key. If we teach them how to do it for themselves, to build you and make you more, because people do that inherently. They want to build themselves better. They just don't have any real direction or understanding. Like here's an example. Like you're in the business world, entertainment world. Have you ever heard of the it factor?
Yeah.
Can you describe it?
Probably not. Yeah, I've heard of it. I know kind of the aspect of, it's to where you're basically making yourself appear as that object, correct?
Yes and no. It's basically, it's one of those things that it's just called like the certain je ne sais quoi that someone has. What I'm saying with emotional and mental literacy, if we break it down, we give it parts. If we give it those parts, we can teach it. So what I'm saying is like we're about to give a presentation in front of our team. If we're about to make a sale, we have a big client. This is something that's valuable to turn on and off. I'm saying that there's 5 different learned skills. If you put these 5 learned skills in the moment, you will exude the it factor. All right. Okay. Number 1, active listening, the ability to truly engage in conversation with someone. This makes people feel interested and valued, thus like having you around. 2, charm, sometimes called charisma or magnetism, the ability to draw people to you. Your core attraction may be your passion or your intelligence or something else, but the important thing is you display it with confidence and no arrogance. Instead, when people are around you, they feel like you elevate them. Number 3, intensity, the ability to exercise force of presence. Whatever you bring it hard, but you don't need to dominate. When you speak, you're just not ignored. Number 4, generosity. You're so self-confident, so present in the moment that you look for a way to give to others. And number 5, poise. It's another term used mysteriously, but it's simply the ability to use nonverbal communication like posture, gestures, and expression to do work for you. So I'm saying is like once we break these things down, now we have the tools to give our employees to make them better. And they're going to want something like that because not just at work, when they go to the party, now they can turn it on at a party. Now they can turn it on at a family event and they can see that magnetism come to them. And that's what I'm saying. If we give them the tools they need, now they can self-select. We can save time, or you guys can save time as employers, not putting that energy into someone who doesn't care, or even if they are going to go away, you're still not putting that time. They're putting that time in. You're just giving them what they need.
Gotcha.
Well, and sometimes you don't care if the person's going to put the time in. Depends on what business you're in. Depends on, your industry, a lot of things. I mean, there's times that you need the guy, I'll use landscaping, for example. You need the grunt that's going to dig the holes and prep everything up to go through and do it. I mean, that's part of society and everything that's inside of there. So, Jim, if anybody's interested in your book or being able to get in contact with you and being able to kind of learn about all this, and how would they do so?
I have a website right now. It's www.tbcenterprises.com. It's TBC as in Tango Bravo Charlie. My book is on Amazon.com. It's called All Your Best Selves, how the Performing Arts Toolkit help you anytime, anyplace, anywhere. And I'm tagged under, or it's by JJR Taylor. What else is there? On my socials, I have a TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and my handle is Soy Candy, SOICANDIE.
Like it.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Dean, did you have anything else or any questions? I kind of went to that closing piece.
A very interesting conversation. I see a lot of good points. I see things that small businesses might struggle with, but everybody, it's all inherent. And it sounds like you've got a great program that you've got lined out in your books and your website. So thank you for sharing with that.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
And I think it could really transform, be really a good business piece. And I think there's a lot of potential for possibly a business book on this, because it would be kind of that onboarding, that piece of where you kind of start everybody at. But I think it could definitely have a lot of potential inside of that area. So I'd recommend really looking into that.
Actually, my second book is an idea I have called a culture engine. It gets drawn from my 60 different jobs and why I feel like, because it's a double-handed, it's double-edged sword. It's not just the employers, it's the employees too. You have to look at both sides of the fence. And I've seen a lot in these, 30 years.
Well, let's look at the restaurant world. You mentioned that once. I mean, the very first thing anybody does when they start a job at the restaurant world is they want to figure out how they get around all the different policies and what's really going to be enforced and what's going to be there. I see that inside of the marketing and the tech world. I mean, they do the same shit. It reminds me of back in my restaurant days, which is like, you guys make a hell of a lot more than what back than what my restaurant crew used to do back in the day. So you might want to knock that shit off. But it pisses me off more when they're making more. But I mean, in the restaurant world, that happened every time. That was your whole entire goal, is to figure out how to beat the system.
Every job I had, it's like, well, this is the way it's supposed to be done, but this is the way we do it. And it's like, come on, man, just teach me the way I'm not going to get in trouble. That's all I want to know. How what's the bottom line? Because I'm a very repetitious person. You teach me the right way, I'll do it every time the same way.
Gotcha. Well, Jim, hey man, it's been a pleasure visiting with you today. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jim. Have a great day, man.
You too. Take care. Thank you very much.
Bye now.